Thank you for tuning in to the Revelation Podcast. This is the podcast that brings people together. I am Matt.
Tyler.
And Joe.
Let's dive in. All right, this is the Revelation Podcast. Today on episode 1, we're going to be talking about the purpose of the podcast. We have no real recording equipment. We're not really set up. We're just three guys trying to get our message across and bring people closer to God in a way that hasn't really been approached by many people before. We're trying a new approach, trying to bring people in. We welcome any and all listeners of any and all faiths. If you don't believe in anything, that's fine too. This is a welcome zone to just listen to some stories, listen to some things that have happened to certain people and kind of formulate your own idea of what you think might be going on there. So please excuse any poor audio quality or anything else. Surely over time and as more episodes come out, we'll be advancing our equipment, talking about different things. Eventually, we will be talking about our life stories, probably closer to episode 3, where that really gets interesting and explains how we got close to God and our own personal miracles and experiences that happened. And there's going to be a lot going on, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things that we're going to introduce to the public, to the people, and some really cool ideas to bounce around probably in episode 2. But for right now, this is going to be about the purpose of the podcast, how we're going to try to get everything set up. And we also want to talk about how God reaches people. You know, some people don't always look at the signs or don't know how to open their eyes to the signs, or there's a multitude of things it could be. But we're going to try to open up that, break through that barrier, open up that door, and talk about how God reaches people. So I'm going to throw it over to one of the other two guys here so they can talk about the purpose of the podcast and why we got it started.
Right. So, like he said before, we had our own experiences in the past, which we'll get to later on. But no, I just feel like the purpose of everything is, everyone goes through difficulties in life, and they don't have an outlet to go to. And for us, we found God, or more or less we're finding God and finding out the meaning of His love, and we want to share that with others, and hopefully for the non-believers that could change something in their life, even if it's just a little. Everyone has to start somewhere. So, we just want to try to, make this as fun as possible.
Welcoming.
Welcoming,
yeah.
And interesting. Joe, do you have anything else too?
We're not, trying to get, anybody to just seriously get into it. We want to express our feelings towards God and how we ended up finding Him, and the more beliefs that we have, the more beliefs that we share. And throughout the years, we've had a lot of beliefs with each other, and we've had a lot of moments with each other.
Good and bad,
which is life learning. And what we would like to do is share that with you guys, just in case if any of you guys end up having similar things that, you guys can share with us.
Which, that brings up two interesting points, because you were talking about how we're still finding God. But I find that funny because, it's almost like God, He knows us. He's not really finding us, but He also never let us stray too far away.
Right.
He always had that rein,
Yep.
and He'd let out a little bit of the leash, and we'd start walking.
Yep.
And then eventually it was time to tug on it, and we'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said was really great, because it's not comparable to other platforms where you know, I guess teaching platforms where
Yeah.
they're like, oh, this is, let's just study the Bible specifically,
Exactly.
and then everyone just argues and spends so much time debating over, this version and this version, and this version has quotes, and this version doesn't have quotes.
And if you spin around 3 times and touch your toes, then
Right,
you're going to
it's-
have good luck.
Right. It's always something, and it's just, it gets so bland and so hard for people
Yeah, it does.
I don't feel like when people want to be introduced to religion, or if people have an open mind and they say, this might be something for me, or, you know, I want to, you know, kind of see what it's about. People want to be excited.
Yeah.
They want to be captivated. They want to be intrigued. They want something that's going to hold their attention. I feel like, I'm not saying every way, but I think certain ways people go about pushing religion is either they're too hard, too strong, too fast. They just kind of, this is what you've got to believe. Or it's just so dry. It's just, here is a quote, and they don't really explain what it means, or they argue over what it meant to begin with. It's always something. This isn't that.
No,
Yeah.
we're just here to express what we have felt, what we had to do to help us in the sense, and how, you know, if we could help any of you guys out there.
That's what it is. It's, we have lived through, I mean, me personally, I can't speak for the 2 guys sitting with me here, but me personally, I have strayed very far away from religion. And, you know, I got to that point where it was a dark place, and like I said, God had that rain on me and pulled me right back. But I've been to that spot where I didn't want to believe. I couldn't even stand the thought of thinking of God, because the things I was thinking of at the time were so bad.
And I've strayed away too. I mean,
Right.
back in, you know, the high school days, I strayed away, but then again, he pulled the chain right back and he said, you're not going yet. You're not straying away from me. And I know, you know, all the believers out there know that God has not lost a battle yet. And I know he will never lose a battle.
And
No.
I mean, like, everyone strays away from him, you know? Like, even the holy rollers do.
Yep.
I mean, everyone thinks that, everyone believes in something, you know? And I just,
Even if it's nothing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's still something.
Even if it's
you're
nothing.
right, you know? And, I don't know, I just feel like this all means something to us. And
Oh, it definitely means something to all of us,
right, you know?
because this is what we thrive for and this is what we do. We want to try to be the best people that we can be, and we want to try to make our lives the best that God sees us in, because we know that God has made our lives a purpose.
Right, but see, what you're bringing up is very crucial for the listeners to hear that, because we have learned that, and we have lived through the miracles, and
Right.
we've seen the things that have happened, the miracles. We've seen the blessings. We have that open eye.
There's some people that haven't seen
And
it.
exactly, there's some people that aren't even at step 1.
Yep.
They don't even believe yet. They might be listening in, saying, "Oh, this is baloney," you know. But they're staying and they're listening because they have that thing in the back of their head telling them, "Oh, but what if it isn't? Maybe you
Right,
should
right.
just hear them out," you know.
Well, and we're still young too. We think that we've seen a lot now. Wait
Could you
until
imagine?
in the future how much
Could you
we'll
imagine?
know, you know?
But
Yep.
and this is actually really the reason we started this, was because so many things have happened to us in such a short period of time, such a short life,
Yep.
that we believe these blessings are too powerful, too meaningful, too significant
That we
to
just need
just
to release
hold
them.
in. To just hold in. Like there's no way that we can receive the things that we have received, which, like I said, I'm estimating around episode 3 is where we're really going to dive real deep into our life stories.
Episode 3 is going to be deep.
And yeah, just the crazy things that have happened. But you can't experience something like that and then just keep it to yourself. Our goal is, if we change one life for the
That's
better,
all that
for the
matters.
better. I mean, whether you end up
Right.
believing or not, I mean, yeah, of course we want you to believe. Of course,
Right.
that's what our goal is, to make believers even stronger believers, and non-believers into believers, followers of Christ. You know, of course.
But also,
And-
you can't help anyone that doesn't want to help themselves.
Oh,
Exactly.
right, and we understand that,
Yeah.
and we certainly don't want to shove it down anyone's throat. This isn't a
Yeah.
telling you what to do type of place. But if we can even just take a person who's like, oh, you know, I'm still not convinced that I really believe, but what they said gave me a whole different outlook on life, and I'm better now. I was sad, I'm not sad anymore, or I advanced in my job because I had a different outlook due to, or, you know, they pick up on signs more where they're like, oh, you know what, maybe this is just a meant to be thing. Some type of positive benefit from listening to it, you know, is what we're striving for. If we can change one life for the better, make it mean something to just one person, that would be amazing. So now on to, is there anything else we need to discuss with the I mean, I think we covered the purpose of the podcast.
I think
I mean, if anything, just reiterate everything. You know, we're not here to shove anything down anyone's throat. You know, we're not like a lot of these Christians from the past, these pilgrims and what else were they called? Like separatists, like all our not separatists, but Puritans and all of them. They said that if you just acted different or said something different, then you were the devil. You're the devil. Or if you believed in something else, you were the devil, and they like killed you. And what it really was the fear of man and not the fear of God. You know, and
right.
You know, we're trying to get the fear of God back into
actually,
people's
to bring
lives.
a point up, there's actually more people that fear God today more than anything.
Well, you would hope so. Well, you know, I shouldn't say that, because Christ is all forgiving.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Messiah did save us from, originally, I mean, go back to, to Genesis.
Yeah.
And in the first few books there.
Yep, exactly.
God was
Not a happy camper.
not a happy camper.
Nope.
No, he
Wasn't
was
a nice guy.
He was rough. He was rough. If you didn't listen, which is respectable, I mean, I could understand. He created you, and you're not listening. And at that time, God walked with man.
Yep.
So, I mean, God actually, there was no reason not to believe, because he walked with man.
Yep.
God's spirit could be next to man in a physical form. To my interpretation.
Yep.
Some people might say, oh no, it's all spiritual, that's symbolic. Oh, he walked with man. No, he didn't physically walk with man. But regardless of the interpretation of that particular passage where they say God walked with man, it still means that in some way, shape, or form, God was very close with man. There was no reason to dispute the existence.
Exactly.
Faith wasn't required, because it was a you can see it and believe it. You know, God and man were very close at that time. So, of course, when man blatantly disrespects and goes against the wishes of God,
Right.
you could see where that came from, that level of anger. But and then the Messiah, you know, Jesus Christ saved us, and you know, forgiver of all sins and everything. So that kind of changed for our lifetimes. That changed a lot. You go back in time quite a ways, and there's definitely the fear of God.
Oh yeah,
that's definitely, you know,
definitely.
and that's another thing I want to roll into here, because we're getting already deeper than I thought we were going to get on episode 1 here. I'm not going to wait till episode 2 to talk about some of the ideas. So we're going to make an email address, and a Facebook. We're going to make different ways to contact us. We'll discuss
We can
that
make
in
even like
episode 2.
Instagrams and Twitters and stuff
Right.
like that.
We're going to discuss that in episode 2.
Yep.
And another idea we were bouncing around that I really like is if this starts taking off, if people start listening to this, what I'd like to do is have people use their voice and
express their feeling towards us and
'cause
tell us your stories.
and your interpretations
and
of
your
everything.
interpretations of it.
But most importantly, your stories.
Right.
We want to hear what people have to say about the miracles that happen to them, and we will share
Exactly.
them and post it. You know, we'll get your story out there for you. Maybe you don't have the means of telling people or spreading the word, and we can help with that. And we want all the comments and all the everything you can send our way, and we'll make sure that we do our best to help everybody out to the best of our ability, get the stories out there and everything. So I definitely want a very open line of communication. And there's going to be people that are very negative. There's going to be people coming on here saying awful things shortly, especially the bigger it gets, if it even gets past one view, you know, I mean, who knows what this is going to turn into, but I mean, you're always going to have those people.
Yep.
But even those things, I mean, that's fine. if that's what you got to say, then maybe that'll open a dialogue. If you write in and it's something that's not the most positive thing in the world, maybe that will open a dialogue. Maybe that will lead to a one-on-one conversation. We'll continue to try to change your mind.
Yep.
I'm not turning anybody away. Definitely not doing that.
No.
But I think that'd be interesting, is to keep that open line of communication with everybody, have ways to contact us, and never, ever assume for any second that we are saying we're better than anybody, above anybody, we know it all, seen it all, done it all, or that we're not sinners, or we're pure, and get real. Just because we're on the other end of this microphone does not mean we're pretending to be something we are not.
No, because we are not.
That is not the case.
Everybody in this earth, God created everybody to be equal. And for most people these days, they don't get that.
Right. We
but
equally
for us,
sin,
we equally take each other as people.
Well, you can kind of put that on the basis of original sin, because you're saying we're all equal, and he said we're all equal in the way of sinning. We all sin.
Yep, we all sin.
So that all makes us share something, have something in common, and we all have that original sin. So, I mean, we started off with something in common, each and every one of us.
And without a doubt, every time that I sin, I always apologize for it, because I know that God hates sins, and I know...
And that's another thing. Each episode is going to have a set of topics that we talk about. And, of course, there's going to be tangents and banter, and we kind of go off topic. That always happens.
It'll happen.
But we're going to have a list of topics per episode where we discuss certain specific things that we want to cover. Like where you were heading towards there was prayer.
The prayers and asking God for forgiveness.
The biggest part of prayer is repentance. So, definitely that should be one of these episodes, is where we just talk about prayer. There's all different topics. Oh, and definitely, if people are going to write in and talk to us, they should ask questions and talk about what, different topics that they're interested in or want to hear about.
We'll talk about them.
And not that we're going to have the answers.
No, we might not have the answers, but we're definitely going to talk about them.
But it opens a dialogue.
Exactly.
It gets the conversation started. It throws out 3 different opinions and viewpoints that might change their outlook on it. Or maybe we can sort the ideas out, or cite a source or something like that. Who knows?
Right.
And, okay. So one of the topics we were going to cover on episode 1 was how God reaches people, which that can spiral into a very long conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So how God reaches people. Now, just through personal experience, God reaches me through... God, there's so many that I can talk about to these people. Please help me sort it. Okay, let's see. First off, signs.
Yeah.
There are so many signs. So there are things that just simply aren't coincidences, that just happen. They're supposed to happen. That's the way it was supposed to happen, and that's just how it is. And one example is, just driving around. There's so many reasons why I shouldn't have ended up in a certain spot. And then I ended up in that certain spot due to circumstance and just random events occurring. And then I get there, and then something crazy religious happens where it's like, I feel the Holy Spirit, I feel the presence. This is so amazing. My day turned into this miraculous experience. Then I get the chance to, repay that to somebody. And then on the way home, I'm having a conversation with Tyler here, which this story we'll get into in episode 3.
Yeah.
But I'm having a conversation, and billboards on the side of the road are answering the conversation. And it's just we shouldn't have even been on that road. And then to be on that road right after this experience, to see these billboards that apply to everything we're saying.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
There are just these signs literal signs, and just signs of things that just cannot be coincidence. So there's that. He reaches people through that, and through random acts of kindness. I mean, there have been instances where people just came up to my aunt, for example, and she'll be on one of these episodes, and she'll talk about it. She was in the store. Someone came up, just so sweet to her, and handed her a prayer card. And nowadays, you don't see things like that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to watch the media anyway, because you don't really see anything religious or positive anymore. Everything's so down. But it seems very scarce for someone to come up and be like, oh, here's a prayer, pray it, just at the most random time.
Mm-hmm.
But something like that can change your whole outlook, can change your whole day. So through random acts of kindness and just through times where you think you want to act one way and you act another. So like I know something happens to me on the road, I'm a tough driver. I get on the road and I get so angry at someone, you feel that frustration, but then 2 seconds later
it just boils down.
You say a prayer for them and you're like, I hope they have a safe trip, blah blah blah. And you have this whole change of heart, and then you settle down, and you kind of feel that. It's like the warmth, the grace of God kind of entered you and relaxed the whole situation. So there's so many different forms just for me that can happen on a daily basis where God reaches me. But the thing is, you have to have the open eyes and the open mind to realize that these things that are happening are God.
Exactly. And there's been times at, my work where I'm just getting so frustrated because, people are just making me mad and other stuff like that and trying to fluster me. And I'll just sit there and I'll just pray for the people around me. And then it'll just feel so much better when I do that because I know that, God hears all the prayers that anybody says to him. And that's what makes me happy and more able to function and do my work more instead of being flustered and not trying to do the work in a unmanly manner, I guess.
Right. No, he definitely, faith thing, he reaches me through the different people I see each and every day. Whether it's good or bad, I just feel like, each individual is like a sword, and he's trying to sharpen our sword, so it's not dull. So, the only way you could do that is by preparing yourself with the different aspects of life. So, one instance, what can I even say? No, just this one gentleman, as soon as he met me, he just took a liking to me for whatever reason. He just said that there was something about me that he just knew that was good. And I didn't even say anything to him. I literally just looked at him. And he just said that there was something that he saw in me that was good. And then after that, we just kind of become friends. And he talks to me about religion and God. And tell me that's a coincidence. Tell me that's just, that just happened. You just were in the right time at the right, how's the saying go? You're at the
right time at the right place.
Yeah, right time at the right place, No, God put that person in my life to kind of like educate me more, to try to have me use that to go and help someone else out. And also on the other receiving end, I've had some people who have not been, I guess, so nice or not have been a positive aspect in my life. And I think that also is him trying to see, how will I react? Am I going to get angry? Am I going to just shrug it off?
Or are you going to learn from it?
Am I going to learn from it,
Or are you going to become your surroundings?
Right.
You're going to succumb to that.
Right. I just feel like everything each and every day, there's a purpose, even if it's so small, even if it's so
even if it's the tiniest thing.
Like so minuscule that at first glance, you don't think anything of it, but then you look back and you're like, well, you know what?
Maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have had an effect on this.
Or maybe this did have something, some kind of effect in my life,
Because the smallest things can have the biggest effects on your life.
Well, and now, because I always love thinking, and when I go home and I pray and all, I just think and with God and just think about this and that, and I always do the butterfly effect. I'm like, well, okay, this something that was so negative in my life. I'm like, yeah, that hurt, it sucked. But I said, well, what if it was the other way around? If I, let's say an example, I was supposed to go out with a friend or something, and then my car automatically just stopped working. Well, I said, well, what if my car started working and I drove down the road and bang, I got in a car wreck, or something like that. I started thinking, I'm like, well, that all had to have happened for a reason.
Right.
Or if I woke up late, what if I woke up on time or something like that, got outside and I got mugged or something else happened, So,
Right.
so
It's an outlook.
yeah. So like just like the events, the people, I obviously signs, but I mean like that's just given. All that stuff, I feel like he definitely reaches out to me with,
Now to backtrack, because I picked up on something that you were saying, where you said even if it's a negative experience, you're supposed to learn from it,
Mhm.
or a negative person coming in, you don't want to develop their attitude as
Right.
well. You want to counter that attitude with positivity. Always stay, positive.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing, and this is taking it quite a few steps further, would you be willing to make the argument that no experience is bad experience?
Right. I guess you could
Because-
say.
If you have a bad time at work, or you say you made a decision about a job that you just so regret, and how awful, I've missed out on so much money, or I missed out on this or that, you still have the experience of doing what you did and learning that if the opportunity arises again, not to pass it up or this, that.
Mhm.
It could apply to so many things. As bad as it could seem,
Mhm.
as long as you, there we go, we should say that. No experience is bad experience as long as you learned from it and took something away from it.
There
Right.
you go. Yep.
If you developed from that experience, then no experience is bad experience. We
Right.
should say that.
Right.
And that definitely applies to the religious aspect, because you can learn so much about yourself just from the things you were talking about.
Right.
Just from these random situations that you kind of fall into. That, how you react means so much. That experience, if you learn something from it, can aid in your religion, and it's not bad experience. It's bringing you closer to God, or teaching you something about God, but people are a huge influence on religion.
Mhm.
It's amazing some of the people God is gonna put in your path
Exactly.
to help guide you along. It's really amazing.
Because there's, again, at times at work where, I just have to think about what I'm going to do first, because people just make me angry. And the first thing that I just think of is, what God would do in this situation, and
What He would want you to do.
or what He would want me to do in this
Right.
situation, and I take it into matter, and not let that take over me, and me take over it, because I don't want it to affect me. Because all I want to do is help people in the long run, not
Right.
try to make people
Now,
upset or angry or anything like that.
Joey, have you made wrong decisions? Have you done things?
Oh, I made
regret
wrong
doing?
decisions. I've made decisions that I completely regret, that I wish I can take
You've
back.
let the anger
I've let
win sometimes, and
I've-
you end up getting angry.
Yep,
Anyway.
there's times where I've let the anger take over me, but there's other times where I settle down, I think about it first,
Right.
and I say, why let the anger get over me
Right.
when I can get over the anger and make it better?
Right. Surely that doesn't always work, like
Yeah.
you just said, but at the end of the day, what do you do, though?
At the end of the day, I try to leave that anger and place it somewhere else and forget about it, and keep the kindness and more helpful me where it's at now.
So you learn from it,
I learned
and
from
you
it. Yeah,
try your hardest to make sure that it doesn't come back, and that you don't repeat that same mistake.
exactly.
I see, I've done the same thing, and when I do it, I definitely make sure in my nightly prayers or in my random during the day prayers,
Yep.
I repent for that. Sometimes immediately, I'll let the wrong thought win, and I'll act on it. And as soon as it's done, I'll say,
And it
I
happens.
bet you didn't like that.
It happens to the best. Like, it happens to the best of everybody.
Yeah.
Though. It doesn't matter like who is in the situation.
Right,
It happens to everybody, and that's where you got to learn from it.
right.
Because people always have mistakes, and people always learn from their mistakes.
Well, no, they don't.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
not
true.
everyone
That is true.
learns.
Not everyone learns. That
I
is
always
true.
like this analogy playing sports, but most importantly, baseball. Baseball is And like what I'm saying is like this compares to life. Baseball is a game of failure. You know, a pitcher could go 9 innings, but give up like 8 hits, couple runs, and still win. Well, yeah, he did good, but he gave up 8 hits. He gave up a couple runs. You know, he's gonna boo-hoo or whatnot, even though his team won or whatnot. A hitter could go 3 for 10, that's 30%, and still make it into the Hall of Fame. You know, so it's a game of imperfection, but even people in that sport try to be too perfect. And that's the same thing in life. All we're supposed to do in life is adapt. In baseball, you adapt. That's all you can do. And if you fail again, you just try again. In life, you pray again. That's all you can do. You know?
Right.
So, what you're trying to say is when life kicks you down, don't let it kick you down, get you back up.
Right, you know?
Right.
That's what...
If you let it get you down too far, it's like quicksand, you know? And you just keep on going deeper and deeper in. And you know, as much as you try to fight it and try to say, well, I'm going to do this perfect, it's just going to keep on having you sink deeper and deeper.
Now, I know the topic of this episode was how God reaches people.
And that rambled off.
Well, no. I mean, we covered. We covered it. We covered it, but especially me covered it very vague because I know I have a little bit of a what would you call that? Not foreshadowing, but knowledge of the future.
Oh yeah,
that the listeners don't have. Because I know what I'm going to say and they don't.
Yeah, so
come episode 3, I know what stories I'm going to be telling.
I mean,
in the compelling things that will be said between the 3 of us. I don't want to give that away.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, so we definitely did cover it.
We covered it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, could it have been a little more? Probably not, just because.
Yeah, you don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want to save.
You don't want to give anything away.
You want to save the great stories for when the
time comes.
And we agreed on this before we started recording that we don't want to bombard the people.
Yeah.
We don't want to. Hey, this is our life story, and this is why you got to believe in God because we believe in God because these crazy things happen. Like that just seems so forceful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we wanted to start off with an introduction. Hey, here's our goal.
Yep.
Here's what this is about. Here's what we want to do. Pick one topic that just gets the conversation started about religion.
It certainly got the conversation started.
It worked. We picked the right one.
Yep.
You know, and gradually ease into it. Episode 2, cover a couple topics, blah blah blah. Then episode 3, okay, here it is.
When the big
this is no BS.
Like
this is no nothing. This is just here it all is on the table. And then after that, then it's more trying to involve the community, involve the audience, and well, what do you want to talk about, or what should we talk about, or hey, you know what, or we went to work today and I called you on the phone and I said, man, this crazy thing happened at work today. You know, and it really makes me wonder why people feel this way or why this and this would happen. And then you say, hey, wow, that should be a topic on the podcast. So let's talk about that. Let's involve God with that.
Yep.
That's what it's going to turn into, you know, but we certainly didn't want to start with all the real heavy stuff right off the bat. I didn't think that was the right way of approaching this at all. But, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I liked it.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
I liked it. I think that was a good start. So we covered.
I think it was too.
We covered the purpose. We covered how some of our goals, how we want to connect, and
and how we would like to connect to you guys as well.
Right. So, obviously, this was very unprofessional. This is the beginning of it all, and
it'll get better as it goes, though.
This is probably just sad audio quality, and it's going to be a sad introduction. It's not going to be anywhere near a professional level podcast, but that's not what it's about. You know,
that's how you start out.
You're not supposed to sit there when you're driving to work or whatever and say, man, I heard a crackle in that audio. How dare they? This is terrible. I'm not going to listen to this. That's not what it's about. It's about bringing you closer to God. And you know, as long as you can hear us and we can do that, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters, yep.
So, do either one of you, have any closing statements or anything you want to add?
I can't think of anything right now.
Not at the moment. I can't think of anything.
So, I mean, for an episode 1, I feel like we did okay.
Right,
Yeah.
you know.
We covered what we wanted to cover. So, is everyone satisfied?
yeah, you know,
satisfied.
you can only go up from there.
Yeah,
Yep.
true. So,
You can only go uphill.
episode 2 is going to be a little more interesting. What did we say we were going to talk? What's some of them topics up there on there? Oh, I think episode 2 is when we were going to cover prayer.
Oh,
Yep,
yeah, prayer.
yep.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
it is.
exciting. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
episode 2, we're going to cover our opinions on prayer and just kind of open up that dialogue a little bit.
Oh yeah.
A couple other interesting things are on that list. So that's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yep.
Well, I thank whoever is out there listening, any and all of you, I thank you so much for tuning in, making it this far. That is definitely a huge thing.
Thank you,
That is a
thank
great
you.
step 1. Thanks for dealing with the 3 of us
Right.
and our poor audio quality.
Yeah.
We appreciate you tuning in to the Revelation Podcast. God bless you all. We
God
love
bless you
you.
all.
Godspeed.
And
Yep.
thank you.
Amen.